Tonight, the strongest storm in Jamaica's history hits the island, with residents told to take shelter and pleas for international help. A threat to life, Hurricane Melissa makes landfall with warnings of storm surges and severe flooding. A catastrophic Category 5 storm. Roofs are torn off buildings as winds reach speeds of up to 185 miles an hour. It's been described as the storm of the century and could directly impact 1.5 million people living in the country. We'll be live on the island as those living there are warned that now is not the time to be brave. Coming up, we're going to hear from the Jamaican government, aid workers, and some of those caught up in the storm. Also tonight, explosions in Gaza with the ceasefire at risk as Israel's Prime Minister orders powerful strikes on the territory. Plus, fears of mass killings with thousands of civilians trapped as rebel forces capture a key city in Sudan. Tonight, people in Jamaica are warned to take steps to protect their lives as the strongest storm in the nation's history charts a devastating path across the island. Hurricane Melissa, a Category 5 storm, strengthened as it approached Jamaica with winds of up to 185 miles an hour recorded. The World Meteorological Organization called it the storm of the century while warning of a catastrophic situation. Mandatory evacuation orders were enforced across low-lying areas of the Caribbean nation, with the Prime Minister warning infrastructure cannot withstand a storm of this power. Hurricane Melissa made landfall late afternoon and travelled northeast directly across the island. Well, we're going to cross live to Jamaica in just a moment, but first, our U.S. correspondent Martha Kellner has this report.
A generational disaster is taking hold in Jamaica. The island is in the grips of one of the most powerful hurricanes on record. Roads flooded, power out and homes destroyed.
Look at it, look at it.
Melissa touched down on the south coast.
Every house up around us gone. Look at water.
And tore through anything in its path, exposing people here to its full, unforgiving ferocity. This is Black River, a seaside town where the hospital is unable to withstand the wind. Its roof peeled off in a matter of minutes. This hurricane is a nightmare scenario, driven by winds as fast as a race car, but moving through as slowly as a mediocre cyclist. The storm will hang over the island for hours. Officials hoping their warnings have been heeded.
Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. I've been saying for 1 week, don't bet against Melissa. It is a bet we can't win.
Aid missions are already underway. Miami has a large Jamaican expat population. Volunteers here pack tin sausages, tomatoes and beans to be flown over. Here, people fear that when the skies do finally part in Jamaica, a humanitarian disaster will be revealed. Dana was born and grew up on the island.
Most of the houses in Jamaica, they're not built properly for hurricanes, so we're worried about the people in Jamaica. As much as Jamaica can get, please send help.
My concern is that no one's going to be able to get in or out.
Victoria has a home on Jamaica's southwest coast. This is 2 hours before Melissa even made landfall.
Obviously, my biggest concern is everyone's life, because that's how threatening it is. I've never been through a storm where I worried about people's lives. I mean, we did the best to prepare in every way and make sure everyone was in a safe place, but we don't have any control over that now.
Accelerated by the increasingly warm waters of the Caribbean, Melissa exploded in size and speed.
Kuzinka fly.
Communities on the coast, where many homes are wooden shacks, stood no chance. Around 25,000 tourists are trapped too in Jamaica's holiday resorts, Chantel among them.
I don't know if you can hear our surroundings a little bit here, but it is pounding. A few windows are broken. A lot of water is coming in, so we're just basically pushing that towels and stuff at the doors like that coming in. and the level of noise is ridiculous. Trees have already bended over and flew away, and some of our roof is currently off.
Nature conspired to send this perfect storm barrelling through Jamaica. It will weaken slightly before likely making landfall in Cuba on Tuesday. The extent of the damage and the loss of life is unknown for now.
And Martha joins us live now. Martha, tell us a little bit more about how they're trying to help out from where you are.
Yeah, Barbara, I'm in a warehouse at the moment in Miami, which has a large Jamaican expat population. This has now become the centre of a donation drive. So everyone's gone home for the day now. But for the past several hours, volunteers have been here packing up pallets of goods, things like beef ravioli, tinned tomatoes, tinned sausages, stew, lots of non-perishable goods. The calculation being that over the coming days and weeks, the situation in Jamaica may be so bad that people will need these goods. I guess the next question is, how are they going to get this stuff into Jamaica? Because there's a real concern that the two major airports on the island will be so damaged that it could take days or even weeks to get them back up and running. We don't yet have a total clear sense of just how destructive this hurricane has been, but it was a Category 5 storm, among the most powerful ever to make landfall. Just to give you some idea of the strength of the winds in that hurricane eye wall, 185 miles per hour. That is stronger than the winds that drove Hurricane Katrina, which of course devastated New Orleans back in 2005. So this was a storm the likes of which Jamaica hasn't seen before. I was in Jamaica a year ago for Hurricane Beryl. That hurricane skirted the edge of the island. It was Category 3, nowhere near as powerful as this one. Yet I saw bridges taken out, roads flooded, damage into the hundreds of millions of dollars. So this one will have impacted Jamaica far more than that. One of the worst affected areas is an area called St. Elizabeth Parish. The hospital, which you saw in my report there with the roof ripped off, that is in St. Elizabeth Parish. And that's one of the major crop growing centres of Jamaica. It's known as Jamaica's breadbasket. You imagine that many of those crops will be destroyed. So now attention will turn to the long-term recovery of this island. But of course, that storm's still passing over Jamaica. So the priority now is preserving life while that storm passes over, and then immediate repairs to the infrastructure and getting the power up and running and connectivity too, because large swathes of the island of Jamaica still cut off from the outside world.
Martha Kellner with the latest from Miami. Martha, for the moment, thank you. And I'm joined now by Daryl Vaz, Minister for Energy, Transport and Telecommunications in Jamaica. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. First of all, Melissa has made landfall. What is the situation on the ground?
Situation is that the hurricane has made landfall in the western part of Jamaica and is causing devastation in those areas. Thankfully, Kingston is in the eastern end of the island, which is the capital. So we have not been that badly affected. So we'll be able to respond better, as this is the epicenter of commerce and government business in the island. The reports that are coming out of Western Jamaica are horrific, meaning that there's devastation to infrastructure, life, and livelihoods. So we're hoping that by tomorrow we'll be able to do an assessment to start the recovery process. But as of right now,
Daryl Vaz. Sorry, sir, we seem to be having connectivity problems, which is exactly what you were talking about. Can you hear me? Daryl Vaz, their Minister for Energy, Transport and Telecommunications in Jamaica now. Obviously, that there are issues with communications, and we're having those issues right now. We will keep on trying to speak to the minister as soon as we try to get the line up again. Well, aid organizations are on standby to provide support to the millions of people who are being impacted by Melissa. The World Food Programme is among those on the front line, and Dana Sacchetti is the head of their office in Jamaica. And he told me earlier that the conditions could be apocalyptic.
In Kingston at the moment, we've seen over the last 30 to 60 minutes, Hurricane Melissa is really ramping up, heavy rainfall and huge gusts of wind. I think the real eyes are on the west of the country, where we're seeing reports of Hurricane Melissa blasting into the country as the most extreme weather event in the nation's history, with catastrophic rainfall, flash floods, landslides, storm surge. I think it's clear that no sector, and indeed no Jamaican on the island today, will be untouched by this storm.
Absolutely. I mean, it could well be that the worst storm that's ever hit Jamaica. How is the World Food Programme preparing for it?
It's job one for WFP to prepare for and respond to emergencies such as the one we have in front of us today. We were fortunate to have the benefit of time in preparing for Hurricane Melissa. You and your viewers may know that the system moved very slowly to the south of Jamaica over the last several days. So in addition to the work that we do to support the government of Jamaica to prepare for and respond to emergencies such as these, we're working to deploy food assistance from our regional hub in Barbados as soon as we can get the airports open in Kingston and Montego Bay. Planning to send 2,000 kits, food kits to start with, that can feed 6,000 people for 7 days. And shortly following, we'll be scaling up our emergency food assistance program right after. The devastation that we expect to see when Melissa passes will be apocalyptic.
What do you think the biggest challenges might be? How do you prepare for the unpredictable in a way?
Yeah, we're going to need to work, and we are working with the National Disaster Office. This is the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, the Jamaican Defense Forces, the entire humanitarian architecture and community that will be stood up in response to this, to really get boots on the ground, to get assessments done in all communities across Jamaica, to really put a picture on exactly what the needs will be. How many persons have been impacted? How many people are in shelters? How much food will they need? What are the needs for water?
Melissa made landfall a few hours ago now. How are you preparing for the time scale? When do you think the time of biggest pressure will be for you?
The pressure is now. There's a real urgent feeling that's been present within WFP and among many of our partners since we saw this storm really starting to accelerate and intensify to the south of the country. Category 5 and one of this magnitude and power is quite an exceptional thing. Jamaica has not had a storm of this power in its recorded history, and indeed we're seeing this as perhaps one of the strongest hurricanes to occur in the Atlantic Basin in recorded history. I think one message I want to pass to you and to your viewers that it's important to keep the people of Jamaica in your thoughts, not just today, but in the days and weeks to come. It's a critical moment for this country.
Do you think that support from outside, whether government or people, will be essential in Jamaica's recovery?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. It's going to require an all-government response. Governments across the region will need to support. Donor governments will also need to pitch in. I think one of the things that we can mention is that Jamaica has done a lot of work, not just to prepare itself for the disaster response in terms of support to communities, logistics, and persons that would be impacted, but the country has invested significantly in what is a sophisticated risk insurance architecture, basically insurance for hurricanes, events such as these today. And they hold a number of policies that, if activated, can unlock additional resources for the government to channel and support persons who will be needing that assistance in the days and months to come.
Dana Sacchetti from the World Food Programme speaking to me a little bit earlier, and we are trying to reconnect with the Energy Minister for Jamaica. As you can appreciate, there's obviously connectivity issues with the island. This is The World. Coming up next, the Gaza ceasefire under threat. Bomb blasts reported in the territory tonight as Benjamin Netanyahu orders fresh strikes.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. The already fragile ceasefire in Gaza has been dealt another blow today after Israel's Prime Minister ordered his military to resume strikes on the Strip. The announcement came shortly after Israel said that Hamas had opened fire on its forces in southern Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu also accused Hamas of violating the 3-week-old ceasefire in the territory by handing over remains that were of an Israeli hostage who was already recovered. Well, our Middle East correspondent Adam Parsons joins me now from Jerusalem. So, Adam, what we understand is the latest that's actually happening in Gaza.
Well, there have been attacks by the Israeli military in Gaza. And although it sounds strange to say it, despite the fact that the fire hasn't ceased, the predominant ceasefire is holding firm. It's been a fairly turbulent day, but there are three big factors at play here. So if we go through them, Israel is the most important in terms of the military intervention. It has attacked Gaza. Why? Well, mainly because today Israeli soldiers came under attack in Rafah, a serious incident, and as we have seen before in the ceasefire, when Israeli soldiers are attacked, the Israeli military will respond with considerable ferocity, and they have done that. A second element, though, is this growing suspicion among the Israeli government that Hamas is lying to them, that they say that Hamas knows exactly where all the deceased hostages are, but is just stringing things up, procrastinating. And today, the IDF says that it filmed a video, and I've seen the video, and it really does seem to show Hamas operatives bringing human remains out of a building and then burying them in a patch of land, and then a bit later getting a bulldozer and digging those remains up again as a show, a performance, as if they've discovered them, and then presenting those remains to the Red Cross. The Israeli government says this is prima facie evidence that Hamas has been lying and that it knows where remains are, and it is not acting in good faith. So that has driven the Israeli response. Israeli sources telling me that they believe there have been more than 200 violations of the ceasefire by Hamas. Now, Hamas itself has distanced itself from the attack on the Israeli soldiers, and I think the mood music suggests that it has seen this video and has not tried to defend it. It's been hit by a barrage of criticism, not least by the Red Cross itself, which is not normally prone to public displays of anger, but which has been very furious about this. Hamas, I think, knows that it needs to pick up some kind of credibility and will, I think, through intermediaries, I'm expecting itself to try and distance itself from the actions of the people in this video. It maintains that it needs help to reach bodies of deceased hostages that are buried under rubble, that it needs heavy-duty equipment, and it needs outside assistance. But it also says that it wants to help, and I think that is partly because it believes that only by doing that can it try to play a part in the long-term future of Gaza. And then, of course, there is the third factor in this, and that is the United States, the arbiters of this ceasefire. President Trump's name is right at the top of it. And the indications are that America does not believe that the ceasefire is truly under peril. Vice President J.D. Vance talking about these as the sort of skirmishes that happen, but saying that he believes that what he called the president's peace plan is still not just viable, but is still intact. And that is crucial. The sense I have tonight, and the Middle East is a volatile region where things can change quickly, is that Israel will feel that it has responded and shown its strength in the way that with its military might it can. I think Hamas will feel that it has been chastised. Earlier today, very quickly, it offered to return another body of a deceased hostage, and of course that will further making Israel believe that it knows where all the bodies are. And then it rescinded that offer when the military action struck. One suspects that they will put that offer back forward again once it's clear that the military action has come to an end. It may well be that the ceasefire has once again been tested and challenged, but so far it would appear it hasn't buckled.
Adam Parsons with the latest from Jerusalem for the moment. Adam, thank you. And now let's speak with the Israeli government spokesperson, David Mencer. David Mencer, thank you for joining us here on the program. So two separate events seem to happen today, the attack on Israeli soldiers and also the issue with the remains of a hostage. What was the specific reason for the Israeli government to resume its attacks on Gaza?
Thank you for having me, Barbara. You're correct. Those two infringements of the agreement, of the 20-point agreement. But most of all, the first line of this agreement is that all of our hostages should have been returned on the first day of this agreement. That's why Israel signed up to this agreement, and indeed that's why Hamas also signed up to this agreement. Hamas have cheated President Trump. Hamas have cheated the American people. Hamas have cheated Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well, because Prime Minister Keir Starmer also came for the announcement of this agreement in Egypt. They were supposed to give back all of our hostages, and there was supposed to be a ceasefire. There are still 13 of our murdered hostages. Their bodies they are holding on to. Can you imagine an organization which holds bodies as hostage? And secondly, Hamas are firing on our troops. That is not a ceasefire. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has said very, very clearly, this is an agreement which we believe in, which we want to succeed, but which we will enforce.
But so where do you stand right now? Is the ceasefire over, or are you trying to send a message to Hamas?
You know, we don't send messages in this part of the world. Hamas are an Islamist, genocidal, fascist-type organization. They
so with respect,
cheated.
You obviously are, because this attack happened in response to what's happened earlier today. So my question is whether you think that this is the end of the ceasefire, whether this is, you know, your way, you may not like the phrase sending a message, but certainly making your point.
This isn't a response, this is enforcement. Where there is a ceasefire, then fire must be ceased. Hamas fired on our troops, therefore Israel must enforce this ceasefire. That is the experience we've had in Lebanon, and it has worked because the Lebanese border is now quiet and Hezbollah are no longer the threat in Lebanon that they once were. And even till this day, we are enforcing this agreement. Now, to answer your question specifically, Israel signed up to this 20-point agreement, this hostage release framework. We believe we want it to succeed. President Trump was just in the region 15 days ago, and we want this agreement to succeed. But the first line of this agreement is all of our hostages home. Hamas are fooling the world. They are playing with the world with their shenanigans.
Well,
and they are firing on our
Hamas
troops.
are saying that they are having difficulties locating some of the bodies. Now, obviously, there's the issue of the video that emerged today, but there was also meant to be a handover of a body, which has now been rescinded by Hamas, that was meant to happen tomorrow.
Hamas are a genocidal, murderous organization, an Islamist organization. We must not take their word for anything. They have cheated the world with this agreement. They signed up to it. Israel has fulfilled its side of the agreement. Now Israel is enforcing this agreement. Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying very clearly to Hamas, there are two ways this can happen, the easy way or the hard way. Hamas know about the hard way. The world has offered Hamas the easy way. And if they wish to go back to the hard way, then that is precisely what will happen. Israel wants this agreement to succeed.
I don't know if by the world you mean the US, which obviously helped broker the ceasefire, but we did
Barbara,
hear from
I mean by the
US...
world, I mean that every single country which joined together, including Arab states, that in one voice, the UK included, said Hamas can have no longer part of the future of Gaza. Hamas think that they can fire on our troops. Hamas think that they can continue to run Gaza. That is simply not an option. That is not the agreement.
So,
Israel will enforce this agreement.
It's fair to say the most powerful player in bringing this agreement about was the United States. And we did hear from the US Vice President, J.D. Vance. Now, first of all, he did accept that Hamas or somebody else within Gaza, is what he says, attacked an Israeli soldier, and he expects Israel to respond. But he did also say the ceasefire in Gaza is holding, and he referred to little skirmishes here and there that might be expected. And I suppose that's my main question to you again. Does this mean that the ceasefire could end, or is it what J.D. Vance calls skirmishes?
Israel wants this ceasefire to continue. It signed up to this 20-point plan. The first line of that plan says all of our hostages should be returned. Hamas have cheated the world, and now Israel is ensuring we're holding their feet to the fire to say, give back all of our hostages and cease firing upon us. They fired upon us today, and they have not released our hostages. The whole world saw it in glorious technicolor, Hamas trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. None of the world is falling for this. The US is not falling for this. And Israel certainly will enforce this agreement, an agreement which we wish to continue.
Very, very briefly, Mr. Mensah, Benjamin Netanyahu said that now there's going to be powerful attacks. Are we expecting to see more attacks in Gaza overnight?
Prime Minister Netanyahu, in discussions with the IDF, said very, very clearly that the decision was made to enforce this agreement, to ensure that Hamas does not breach the ceasefire again. And that is precisely what we will do.
David.
And after that agreement was made, we informed the Americans and President Trump, our great ally, of what their actions were going to be.
David Mensah, we're going to have to leave it there, spokesperson for the Israeli government. Thank you.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Well, also today, the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine delivered a scathing report to the General Assembly, accusing the UK, the US, and a number of mostly European countries of being complicit in the genocide in Gaza. Francesca Albanese was forced to address the Assembly from Cape Town after the Trump administration sanctioned her, barring her from traveling to the US and freezing her assets there. Her report took aim at 63 third-party states, claiming that they've been complicit in a so-called collective crime. And Francesca Albanese joins me now. Ms. Albanese, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Now, I would also like to get your views about what we're seeing happen in Gaza right now and, possibly breaches of the ceasefire, possibly the end of the ceasefire. But let me start with your report. Scathing would be the word to apply to it. So Israel's actions in Gaza would have been impossible without global complicity, is what is said in this report. I know that 63 countries are a lot, but tell us mainly what your report comes up with.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've not accused the 63 states of being complicit with genocide. I've said that the conduct of the international community has enabled the crimes that Israel has been committed over time, providing diplomatic cover, political support, economic trade, and providing supplying weapons and intelligence, as it's the case of the UK, for example. And of course, altogether, this has contributed to create the environment that has allowed the criminal reality in Gaza to metastasize from a settler colonial apartheid regime into a genocide. And of course, there are different degrees of responsibilities that it will be for national authorities to establish, but based on the fact that member states have steadily violated their obligations not to aid, not to assist a state that was already committing crimes before 2 years ago. But as of January 2024, the international community has been put on notice that there was a risk of genocide, so they had an obligation to prevent genocide. The ICJ has spoken over and over, reminding member states not to transfer weapons to a state that was committing international humanitarian law violations, so war crimes. This should have been stopped, the transfer of weapons and components. The ICJ has said, and this is a very critical point that needs to be brought into question to counter the talking points of the spokesperson of apartheid Israel when he was saying, yeah, but we are fighting against Hamas. You are not fighting against Hamas. You are fighting, you have your troops in Gaza, and this is illegal. The International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to dismantle the occupation totally and unconditionally, which starts with withdrawing the troops, dismantling the colonies, and stopping exploiting Palestinian resources.
For just jumping in, because I mean, there's two issues, and I appreciate that you would say that the two are linked. There's the illegal occupation, recognized as illegal by most of the international community of the Palestinian territories, and then there is what we have seen happen since October 7th in Gaza. Now, you mentioned, of course, the ICJ warning of potential genocide. You will know that most Western countries have not adopted the position that genocide has been established in Gaza. But I would say that In the past 18 months or so, there have been changes. So, for example, in the UK, there were sanctions against ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. There were also other sanctions against people linked to the illegal settlements in the Palestinian territories. Also announced a partial suspension of some military exports and most important of all, the recognition of a Palestinian state. I appreciate what you're saying, but do you not think that the stance of many Western countries has changed over the 2 years?
Look, I don't think we disagree. I mean, I don't think I disagree with what you're saying. You need to appreciate that it's not about what I say. It's about what the International Court of Justice has recognized as a situation already 18 months ago, a situation that amounted to the risk of irreparable harm for the Palestinians under the Genocide Convention. This is not a matter of opinion, Barbara. When there is jurisprudence of the International Court of Justice that says that when states are alerted, have noticed that there is a risk of genocide, they need to take steps. And here you are saying, yeah, but they have done certain things, taken certain steps. No, they have not complied with international law, and this is why the genocide has continued. This is why the death in Gaza has gone from 30,000 to 70,000. And yes, this is what has happened up to today. It is the 751st day of genocide.
Yeah. You also, I mean, you focus mainly on Western countries, but in fairness, not just them, you have some criticism for a lot of Arab countries as well. And you pick out Qatar, that you criticize for having a US military base there. But do you not see the value of a country like Qatar speaking to both sides and actually being a mediator in the diplomacy? You mentioned the legality, but there's a diplomatic angle as well in trying to solve what is an intractable conflict and has been for decades. Do you not see the value in that?
But Barbara, first of all, I need to qualify what I do. I don't criticize. I assess facts and conduct against international law. It's not my point to criticize. My point is to make an assessment that then leads to recommendations. And you seem to really believe that here there is a war between Hamas and Israel. You may want to do that, but it's wrong. This is not a dispute between two neighbors who do not get along. This is a settler colonial oppression. And of course it generates violence, but because it's violent in and of itself. I'm in South Africa, was being colonized for 300 years, and then the last 50 of which were called apartheid. Was the violence used against apartheid South Africa justified, or was it? It depends. It depends.
If we could just go back to the report and what is actually happening now. We don't have a lot of time, and I really want to get your opinion on what we've seen happen in Gaza today. So obviously both sides accusing the other of breaching the ceasefire, but we have seen attacks again on Gaza by Israel. Just your view on what's happening.
Yeah, Barbara, it's not, there is a genocide ongoing. You want me to comment on the fact that there is a ceasefire? I'm even uncomfortable with the term ceasefire, as any decent human rights expert who has spoken out on the matter, because the people in Gaza have been starved, have been bombed, have been left without homes. I don't think that
we but the fact that all of that is stopped is undoubtedly a good thing.
To absorb what's happening. What ceasefire are we talking about? This is not about ceasefire. It's about ceasing genocide. Israel has no right to be in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. What do the Palestinians have to do? You have to tell me. What do the Palestinians have to do? If Israel comes to your studio and with his spokesperson and tells you, well, they have attacked a soldier in Gaza. The Palestinians have attacked an Israeli soldiers in Gaza. What was the Israeli soldier doing in Gaza in the first place, Barbara?
Well, they have pulled back as they were meant to from the areas.
They're not pulled back. They occupy 58% of the Gaza Strip.
Sure. I'm just focusing on what was agreed on the ceasefire, which is what is on the table right now.
Which has not been respected, Barbara. This is why there is still a genocide ongoing.
Francesca Albanese, Special Rapporteur for Palestine. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This is The World. Coming up next. A key Sudanese city has fallen during the country's 18-month war. We'll bring you the latest.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Welcome back. Let's go to Sudan now, where after 18 months of forced starvation and shelling, the regional capital and symbolic battleground of Al-Fashir has effectively fallen to the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Sky News has learned that Sudanese army soldiers laid down their arms in return for safe passage out of the city, leaving up to 200,000 people behind. Well, this is how Sudan looks now. The Sudanese army in green holding most of Khartoum, a territory stretching towards the Red Sea in the east, while yellow towards the west is RSF territory, with other parts run by splinter groups. The city of Al-Fashir in the Darfur region has become an epicenter of some of the worst suffering. Around 260,000 civilians, including 130,000 children, remain trapped in the area's main camp for internally displaced people. Our Africa correspondent, Yusra El-Baghir, has this report.
Hundreds are pouring in from Al-Fashir, the symbolic Sudanese city captured by the Rapid Support Forces, arriving at this safe zone, injured and terrified.
So mainly our trauma cases. We see a lot of gunshots infected, unstable fracture, wounds infected as well. So those are the injuries and tortured. And on the other hand, we see a lot of malnutrition. For example, all of the kids are malnourished, and even most of the adults one as well. So malnutrition and trauma cases mainly.
How many people have come into Tawila over the last 2 days of RSF capture?
So the last 2 days we received between 800 and 1,000 people arriving, but it's quite complicated to have a proper number as some come in by truck.
As the civilians poured into Tawila, so did some army soldiers, who surrendered their arms and took safe passage out of Al-Fashir, leaving close to 200,000 people behind, to face ethnic violence and summary executions at the hands of the RSF. With burnt roads leading out of the city, and so much bloodshed that red-stained streets can be seen from space. After 24 hours of silence, Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan finally addressed the nation.
Everyone is following what happened in Al-Fashir. The leadership there, including the Security Committee, estimated that they should leave the city due to the systematic destruction and killing of civilians it was subjected to.
Insiders told Sky News that the army struck a deal to facilitate safe passage for their soldiers, leaving civilians in North Darfur's capital to their fate. This wouldn't be the first time that the army withdraws from key cities in Darfur at critical moments. In the past, we've investigated the army cutting deals with the RSF just as these cities are about to fall. One of the first towns in North Darfur to fall to the RSF in this war faced similar brutal ethnic violence in the wake of military collapse, with the army abruptly withdrawing from Khartoum's garrison.
All of the army's intelligence withdrew before the attack. Soldiers were meant to be part of the defense.
In North Darfur, we met a commander fighting for Al-Fashir just weeks before it fell. Al-Fashir is the ultimate symbol for us, he says. We tell our soldiers to fight until their last breath. Now, as the RSF celebrates their capture of the entire Darfur region, it's slowly emerging who stayed until their last breath and who left the city behind. Yusra El-Baghir, Sky News.
This is The World. Coming up next, we're going to return to Jamaica and speak to those who are caught up in the deadly Hurricane Melissa.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Welcome to the world.
Come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? This is the war game.
There were a number of armed security.
We want to discover, to find out what's really going on.
Everything you need to know about British politics in about 20 minutes.
I actually don't like political drama.
So, where next?
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
A lifeline for millions of people living on both sides of one of the most volatile international borders.
It's dams like these that have become inflection points between the two nuclear-armed neighbors, which could potentially lead to water wars in the future. A terror attack has shattered the peace and tranquility of Kashmir. At least 26 people have been killed and as many injured when militants fired upon them. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
The old and young, all weary after being trapped for days, as the worst floods have hit Kerala in a century.
3 days we are on a rooftop. They have no food, nothing.
The roads have been inundated. The only way out is to get people by boat. There have been reported deaths and many injuries, several critical.
Many families will grapple with the unimaginable loss of one of the worst disasters in India's aviation history.
The spiraling violence between two nuclear-armed neighbors that harbor decades of hostility just seems to be getting worse by the day.
Garbage dumps like this not only threaten the lives of millions of people, but also pose a deadly consequence on the environment and climate.
It is a source of death, decay, disease, and pollution for hundreds of thousands of people living in its shadows.
There is so much disease because of this garbage. Sometimes it's so difficult to just breathe.
Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Over the next 45 days, an estimated 400 million Hindu pilgrims are expected to converge here in Prayagraj on the banks of the holy river Ganga and Yamuna. It's a real kaleidoscope of people from all walks of life.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Welcome back. Let's go back to Jamaica now, where Hurricane Melissa, a catastrophic Category 5 storm, has been passing across the island. And let's go to Kingston. Although I'll warn you from the start, connections out of the city have been unstable, but we are hoping to speak to Pernell Charles Jr., Jamaica's Minister of Labour and Social Security. He joins us now. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, just an overview of what's happening. Well, you're in Kingston, but what you understand is happening in more vulnerable parts of the island.
So based on what information that we've received and the pictures and the updates from the network that we have across the country, it is very clear that in the wake of Melissa, we will see widespread destruction to a lot of our infrastructure. We don't yet have full information if there's any loss of life, but I have not received any such information up to this point, which is extremely good. We do know, however, that our focus is on starting very quickly the assessments, assisting with the persons who are now still in shelters, and ensuring that we can, as much as possible, give support to those families.
We're having issues again. Let's just give it a few seconds to see if the minister connects again. No, we've obviously and unsurprisingly been having terrible problems with connectivity, but that was Colonel Charles Jr., Minister for Labour in Jamaica. I think he might be back. Minister, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, please continue.
So I was saying to you that to the west, which is St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, St. James, Hanover, it's been very difficult to getting in touch with the persons and the team members that are there. Connectivity has been terrible. But we do know, based on the information, that is where we receive the brunt of the heavy, intense winds and damage. So our focus now is to move into the next gear, which is to coordinate the relief and the partnerships across the country and across the world to get support into Jamaica, and then to move towards relief and recovery to ensure that as best as possible we can restore access, restore connectivity, deliver supplies, and give support to the vulnerable families, particularly those who will not have a home to return to tonight.
So you did say that you're having trouble getting communication from some parts of the island. Would you say that there's areas that are currently just cut off that you can't get in contact with?
For sure. We've been trying to get in touch with our own office in Westmoreland, and there's been no return thus far. We are sending actually a team out to make sure that we can confirm that they are okay. I believe that they are okay, but that is just the difficulty is one in terms of connectivity. And right now, the ODPEM is working and coordinating with the Jamaica Defense Force to make sure that all those areas that are cut off, of which there are some, that as quickly as possible, they move to remove those barriers so that we can get support to those family members that are in the shelters there or in the homes that are perhaps in areas that have been cut off.
And so you did mention, and your Prime Minister has said it as well, you've called on the world to help with the recovery efforts. What kind of help do you think you're going to need when the full scale of the impact of Melissa will become clear?
So we've set up a focused humanitarian relief mechanism where you can go on our Prime Minister's page and it will show you exactly how to give support. And that support will be in terms of the food supplies, the resources, the equipment, everything that will be required for us to be able to restore and to sustain. There are going to be places where persons will be in shelters for an extended period, perhaps. So they will need as much support as possible to make sure that they can sustain life until we're able to get them back to normalcy in their communities.
Colonel Charles Jr., Minister for Labour in Jamaica. Sir, thank you so much for sharing your time with us at what is obviously a very critical juncture right now. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your prayers. We appreciate you.
And that is all from us tonight on The World. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. News at 10 is next with the rest of the day's news. Do stay with us.
I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories.
This is insane.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
We call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.